I'm Savithri Rodrigo, and from all of us here at Kaleidoscope, we wish you a happy, joyous, and plentiful 2023. Prishan Panditage, my co-producer, and I light this lamp today with a wish that Sri Lanka will have taken a turn for the better as we step into 2023. This table of plenty also symbolizes that traditional food that marks the auspicious occasions in Sri Lanka. But take a look at some of these. Milk rice, our staple Kiribat, doesn't have a clear origin, but there is a legend that it was the first dish offered to the Buddha just before enlightenment. Kokis is a firm favorite, and it comes from our colonizer, the Dutch. The word kokis is a derivative from the Dutch word which means cookies. Kaum is uniquely Sri Lankan in origin and first appears in the ancient Lankan texts, including the Saddharma Ratnavaliya and the Pujavaliya. A big thank you to the best partners anyone could have. Skills for Inclusive Growth and Australian Aid, Srilanka Life, CDB, The Morning Newspaper, Park Street Gourmet and Zip Sip. Thank you so much, and we hope for a really good year ahead. If you like Kaleidoscope, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
Did you know you can open a digital fixed deposit with just 5,000 rupees? Open a CDB iDeposit digital fixed deposit today. CDB, your friend.
And let's take a look at the first week of 2023 in CDB Snapshot. Year-on-year inflation decreases to 57.2% in December, with food inflation declining to 64.4%. The Sri Lankan rupee depreciated by 44.8% against the US dollar in 2022. The IMF warns that a third of the global economy will be in recession in 2023. Elon Musk becomes the first person in the world to lose $200 billion in 1 year. And the skies welcome the new year with the Quadrantine's meteor shower.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
And here's our first Srilanka Life news capsule for the new year. Going into an year from having had one which was so turbulent, to say the least. Our Pethiyagoda pages today give some insightful observations with scientist, conservationist and public policy advocate Rohan Pethiyagoda. Rohan, a hopeful and plentiful new year to you. And now that we are in a new year, having finished what we hope is the worst of the worst, what do you foresee realistically for this country, basically the good, bad and the ugly?
I think the thing we're going to see this year, obsessing the first quarter, will be the local government elections, which will effectively be a referendum on the government. But the government wants to put this off by any means possible. They'll try legal, legislative, and other arguments to try and defer this election or not have it at all. And that will see some instability and protests, instability by way of opposition parties fighting to have the election and protests from the people who formed the Aragale, for example. So that will be a first quarter that's distracted by that process. Inflation, of course, will continue to fall as the year goes on, as it must. But that's not to say that prices will fall. Prices will continue to go up because even low inflation means higher prices. The main thing at the moment is that foreign exchange inflows exceed outflows. And this has allowed the central bank to build up a modest reserve. I think by the middle to end of next year, if they can build a reserve of $3 billion or so, they'll start looking healthy again. But of course, this means that we aren't servicing foreign debt, and the government will probably even defer the servicing of local debt to 2024 or 25. So the main task of the government will be to maintain the status quo throughout this year so that next year they can deal with the presidential election and then take what comes after that. So I think this means also that the government will try to defer to kick the IMF deal down, and therefore debt restructuring down the road as far as it can.
So do you think we can afford to kick the can down the road where the IMF is concerned?
It's just that we tend to be very good at this eyeball to eyeball interaction with the rest of the world. So I think the government will try. They may not succeed, but they definitely will try to defer this to the next government. The government will also be forced to stave off demands for wage increases, because as night follows day, people will demand higher wages throughout the rest of this year. They'll try to divest some state-owned enterprises to try and balance the budget and get some foreign exchange in. And those two will result in protests, but I think the government will push them through, maintaining order using the military if necessary. So I think this year will largely be a question of holding the fort and leaving the bad news for next year. And so I think I can genuinely wish you a happy new year for this one.
And let's see how our markets are faring as we start off 2023. The All Share Price Index recorded a 31% year-on-year decline in 2022 to 8,490 points. This week, the All Share Price Index remained virtually unchanged, with a daily average turnover of 2.3 billion rupees. WTI oil fell by more than $4 a barrel this week to $73.80 per barrel, posting the steepest percentage loss in the first 2 trading days of any year for over 3 decades. Gold had a good start to the year and moved up to $1,853 per ounce. So it's not been all doom and gloom for the environment in 2022. There have been some remarkable discoveries, with not just a handful of new species, but also rediscoveries of ones that were thought to be extinct. From the reappearance of previously extinct bird and gecko populations in the Galapagos Islands, to finding a shark native to the Arctic thousands of miles south in the Caribbean, to black rhino populations starting to thrive in Zimbabwe, endangered wolf populations being revived with ghost genes from coyotes, and a discovery of a pristine coral reef near Tahiti. There is hope after all. Up next is S4IG Let's Talk, and today we are visiting one of Mahadanamutta's modern Goliaths, Pol Bear Moni.
Sandun, stop playing cricket and come inside. It's time for your bath. Amma, I don't want to come inside. I want to keep playing. Bye. Sandun. Amma, I know how much you love cricket. Yeah, I'm going to be a cricketer when I grow up. That's wonderful, darling. And we can practice as soon as you wake up tomorrow. Yeah, because it's holidays. Exactly. Now, do you want to hop like a kangaroo to the bathroom or crawl like a golubella? Hop like a kangaroo. Boing, boing. I will hop along with you. Let's go. Boing, boing, boing.
So happy New Year, Pol Bear Moni.
Happy New Year, Savithri. How are you?
I am good, and it's so good to have you and Sulochana on the show.
Thank you. Hi, Silo. Hi, Pol Bear Moni. I love your necklace.
Oh, this is for the new year.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Now, Pol Bear Moni, I overheard actually, I was eavesdropping, a little conversation you had with your son Sandun.
Oh my goodness, he's crazy about cricket these days.
I figured that too, and there was this. How did you get him to come in to the house and go for a bath without yelling at him?
Ayyo, Savithri, throughout the pandemic, I was screaming like a banshee. Everyone in the junction knew when it was time for Sandun's bath. But then I realized children stop listening after a while when you're constantly yelling. So then I knew something had to change inside here. So I did some reading, I attended a few parenting webinars, and I met a wonderful counselor who taught me the importance of connect before correct.
Connect before correct. What is that?
Exactly. Exactly. It means if you need to change something or move something in a different direction of a child, you first get down to their level. So you saw how I acknowledged how much he loved to play cricket and how we could get back to it tomorrow morning. You heard that, right?
I heard that, yes.
That's connecting, and you give them something to look forward to. And then the third step is giving a choice. I asked him, do you want to hop or crawl to the bathroom? That empowers the child.
Now, I've heard this phrase, positive parenting. Is this what that is?
Absolutely. You know, throughout last year, we had so many changes in our country, and we've all been shouting, system change, system change. And my husband and I realized unless things change within our own hearts and homes first, nothing's going to change. So everything we are shouting for outside, respect, empathy, accountability, we are practicing with our own children now.
I think that's very important, Paul Mooney. Now there is this. Very few children have the opportunity to go out and play. They don't ride bicycles, they don't climb trees, they don't fall and bruise their knees.
You know, I was a little bit like that too. I thought having a beautiful house and stuffing the house with expensive toys was the way to keep my little one happy. And it drove me crazy when they brought sand and mud and water trailing into the tile floor. I'm the one who has to mop it, Min.
Absolutely.
And then I soon realized my child couldn't even balance. He couldn't even sit on a bicycle without falling off. And he didn't know how to talk to other children. So then my husband and I wondered, what is the point of spending so much if our child can't talk to other humans and do basic things like balance? So then we put everything aside, and no matter how busy I and he are, we spend 1 hour every day playing outdoors with our child. And whenever possible, we play with the neighbors' children too.
That's super lovely. Now, before we close our little chat, Paul Mooney, what would you like our parents to remember? Given that we are now going into a new year of school, children are all excited to be going into school, what would you like our parents to remember?
Very important to treat children as equals. They might be smaller than us, but they have the same feelings. So rather than making everything a power struggle, let's try to connect through play and build mutual respect in our own homes. That's what I want to say to all the parents out there. Happy New Year and good luck playing with your children. And please play outdoors.
Super message, Paul Mooney. Wonderful message. Just be respectful of everybody else.
Absolutely, especially your children.
Absolutely. And start at home. It will always cascade everywhere else outside.
Absolutely. Thank you, Savithri. And I am Paul Mooney from Power of Play, one of Mahadan and Mutta's modern Goliaths.
It's hampers galore at Park Street Gourmet this Christmas with all the goodies that make your Christmas special. Pop into Park Street Gourmet and gift a luxurious hamper befitting the spirit of Christmas. There were lights, fireworks, music and, should I say, extravagance as people celebrated one cycle of the Earth's orbit around the Sun. On Park Street Gourmet Life in 60 today, we go around the world to some of the best. From Sydney to Vegas, Venice to Dubai, Cape Town to Paris and New York, and even our very own Golf-Face Green, ushering 2023 was truly spectacular. It's the new year and the first weekend for 2023. Catch up on some well-needed sleep and we will catch you next week.